Welcome back, or welcome for the first time. This is the second in a row, weekly, of Saturday live streams. So if you're joining us live, thanks so much for being here, or joining me live. Today, let's go into a quick recap of what was last week. If you haven't had a chance to watch last week's, if you're watching the replay of this, I'll put a link to that up, up here. I'm a lefty, so I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so I guess I can do right here. So we named the thing like busy isn't a badge, right? It's more of a blur. So that's what we did last week, and most productivity advice really doesn't address that, let alone fix it. So all it really does when you're thinking about busy is it just adds more motion to the blur, right? And if you're ever looking at anything with that is clear, like let's say the bottom of like a clear pond or body of water. I remember several years ago now, that we were up in the Yukon, and I think it was called Lake Patricia, or Patricia Lake, and you could see, we're talking several feet all the way to the bottom of this lake, and you could actually see, that if you've ever been to a really clear body of water, you can see whatever's in the environment reflecting back off of it. When you've got busy going on, that blur, everything is turbulent, right? There's that turbidity there. So this week, what we're going to do though is we're going to build the answer. It's not a mindset shift either. I mean, I'm all about philosophical mindset shifts. As a matter of fact, my morning coffee cup says, as you can see here, "What good shall I do this day?" And that is a quote from Benjamin Franklin. So I'm all about like philosophical elements. My upcoming book is probably more philosophical than prescriptive. But what we're going to be talking about today is an operating system. We're going to go into TimeCrafting specifically, which I've talked about at great length, prior to the book, The Productivity Diet, coming out. At the end of the live stream today, I'll share something with you that you can maybe use to get a head start with it. But really, what this is all going to lead to is what intentional living actually looks like when it's actually running your life day to day. That's what we want. So let's get into it. If you have any questions or comments or insights that you want to share, if you're here live, you can put them in the comments area. There will be time for Q&A too. So if you're going to chime in, I may address them either during the commentary or at the end, but I'd love to hear from you. And if you're joining us live, let me know where you're joining us from as you pop in here. So why being intentional is more than just a mindset? So the word intentional has been kind of flattened. It's interestingly, it's on coffee mugs, right? It's Instagram bios. It's really, like most words, when it gets used with very little effort, or for lack of a better term, intent behind it, the word means almost nothing now, because it's, pretty much everywhere. I mean, even the book, The Power of Intention by Dr. Wayne Dyer, has lost some of that power because of the fact that intention has just been so overused. So I want to be specific here. Intentional living isn't the opposite of busy, okay? It's the practice of asking, before you spend your time and energy, does this align with what I actually value? That's the question that it separates intentional time from wasted time. Not am I productive, but am I willing toward the right things? And when I say willing, it's like, progressing, pushing myself, heading in that direction. So in my upcoming book, Productiveness, I frame this as basically the difference between these realms of productiveness. There's the ruthless realm, which is all output, no alignment. Myopic, go, go, go. Let's check off as many boxes as possible. And then there's the reckless realm, which is all ideas, no follow through. So it's very scattered. You get only midway through things. A bunch of things get left undone because you are just trying to check off a bunch of boxes, either in a scattershot fashion or in an unpredictable fashion. Think of the tortoise and the hare, right? You know, the old fable where the hare ran like crazy and then stopped to take a rest. Meanwhile, the tortoise just was slow and steady. You know, the rabbit probably would be falling into the reckless realm because it, you know, took the brake when the brake wasn't needed, took the foot off the gas. You know, there's this wrestler I love following. Well, I love following wrestling anyway. But Jacob Fatu, he's a wrestler in WWE, and he's got a phrase, which I'm sure is not just his phrase, but it's all gas, no brakes. If you are all gas, no brakes, then it depends on how, first off, your pedal, the foot on the pedal is. But you're going to end up running out of steam. You're going to end up in a direction that you don't want to necessarily be in, and you could crash, right? In wrestling terms, that's fine. It's cool, right? But outside of pro wrestling, probably not so much. So what we want to get to is this reasoned realm of productiveness where choice is anchored and it's not accidental. That's what we want. So most people, what they do is they oscillate between ruthless and reckless, like I was just saying. And TimeCrafting, what it does is it's a system or a framework or an approach for finding your way back to reasoned. And I talk about this a lot in my work, and I think if you spend time thinking about logic and emotion, and there's this, The Age of Reason is an interesting book. I think it's by Thomas Paine, who also wrote Common Sense, which is celebrating its 250th anniversary this year. And it's being really touted, especially in the United States of America. But this idea of reason, I believe, sits between logic and emotion. So logic is too mechanical, too far without taking emotion into account. So it's probably the least human that you could be. When we talk about AI, in its purest mechanical form, it goes straight down the logic path. But if you've been playing with generative AI, then you know that as you add things to it, that's the emotional component. So the emotion is a very human element, right? If you ever watch Star Trek: The Next Generation or any science fiction, any android or robot that they just want to be human, Data would be a good example, they have a hard time applying emotion because they're just not programmed to do it. They cannot do it. They are curious about it. The Orville is another example. There's the alien in the Orville, and his name is escaping me right now. If you know, put it in the chat. But there's the alien. He is trying to study humans because of their behavior, because of their emotional capabilities. He's studying other races and beings that have that capability. So it's important that we have access to both. And reason kind of, in my mind, is that center piece, that middle ground. And it's harder to grasp and therefore harder to maintain because it's not as sexy as going all the way to emotion or all the way to logic. Because when you go binary like that, it's very easy to make judgment calls. It's very easy to tether values to those very specific sides of the, let's say, emotional spectrum, or the human spectrum is probably a better way to put it in this case. But reason kind of dances in the middle. And I love the idea of reason, and Thomas Paine wrote about the Age of Reason. And reason tends to lean more towards logic, but it takes emotion into account. That's my belief. So it's not purely skewing towards emotion. So when we think about this, and I think my conversation with Thomas Griffiths, which will again I'll put up here, it was a podcast episode, so I'll link to it in the show notes, where I talked to him about that. He tended to agree, he studies this stuff. So in his book, The Laws of Thought, reason plays a role because it's the human being that's applying it to it. So when you're interacting with generative AI, this is at least what I believe, is that your prompting, your back and forth with it, your ability to, you're informing it, it then shifts its perspective towards your your line of thinking. It's pulling back towards reason. It's taking the human into account. So that is where we want to spend more time. If we can spend time in the reasoned realm, we're going to be in a great spot. And Brad, thanks so much for being here. And thank you for joining me. And I appreciate the kind words. Really appreciate it. All right. So what does TimeCrafting offer that allows you to get back to reason? Well, one thing is daily themes. So daily themes create structure without rigidity. It's interesting. I was on a podcast with Joey Cafone of Bear and Fig, and we were talking about TimeCrafting. And when I mentioned theming my time, one of the things that came up is, "Oh, it sounds awful rigid." And from the outside looking in, it probably felt that way, especially if you're not doing it. But number one, it's not something that I adopted right out of the gate. It's not something I didn't theme all of my days and all of my hours. I didn't theme every increment or, for lack of a term, parcel of time in my life. I added more as it made sense and took away as it didn't. Again, time crafting. It's crafting time. It's not managing time. We cannot manage time. Time is bigger than us. It's arrogant to think that we can manage time, but we can craft it. And so by crafting time, what we're doing is we're crafting it to suit our current needs, our current season, our current environment, our current values, our current desires. If we do that, then time becomes a fantastic partner. It's a relationship that we're building. That's what you manage. You manage your relationship with time. So theme days are not a rigid schedule where Monday is always admin and nothing else invades that space. Nothing else ever happens, because that's not life, right? Especially if you work with other people. And I hope you do, because even as somebody who works from a solo perspective, as I do, number one, we all know what happened during the pandemic when we were totally isolated in certain parts of the world. It hurt us, right? Maybe not at first, but that prolonged lack of connection to humans does take its toll, because we are social creatures, right? And so I actually just came back from a whirlwind trip. As we're recording this, actually, I just got back a couple days ago. And my first trip was to do a workshop in just outside of Toronto, Ontario. As if there's another Toronto to think of. At least Toronto, people in Toronto would say that. And you know I'm Canadian because I'm saying Toronto, not Toronto. Although my wife and I were talking about this last night, and apparently she says Toronto. So I don't know. But anyway, I was in Toronto. I delivered a workshop to a private firm on sustainable wins. And elements of time crafting definitely came in. Time theming came in. Attention paths came in to play. And from there, I then went to Montreal to visit my daughter for a couple days. And then I got back here. So I only got back here late Thursday night. In fact, I would say early Friday morning, because my flight was delayed. So it's a whirlwind of events. And what was really interesting about that, and to give you a sense of why I bring that up, is the thing that kept me centered throughout, parts of it, were my daily themes. Now, could I do everything I would normally do during my daily themes, during my travels with my daily themes? So if Monday is my attunement day, I was delivering a workshop. Tuesday was the day I delivered a workshop. So Monday, I was actually doing a lot of things that were related to this theme of attunement. But it wasn't the only thing I did. It was just my overarching focus. Tuesday, connection. That's when I did the workshop. That lines up pretty well. That was accidental. It's not like I intentionally said, let's do this on a Tuesday. But then outside of that, I was on the train to Montreal. So I thought about this and what should I do while I'm on the train that's related to my daily theme? What can I do? And there were some, but not many. You're going hundreds of kilometers per hour with very sketchy, spotty Wi-Fi. There's only so many things you can do. But I did talk to my lifelong friend again, technology is amazing. I'm on a train headed from Toronto to Montreal. He's in Amsterdam. Amazing. When you think about that, it's just amazing. But Wednesday was my exploration day. That's what I for me, exploration is not just like exploring places or whatever. It's learning, it's studying. Wednesday, my daughter basically showed me around her city. So I was living up to exploring. So it was weirdly accidental, but because I was so present and I had, number one, I had cleared my decks clearly, but also I had put myself in a position where when we weren't doing those things, I was intentionally looking for, oh, well, what are my exploration tasks today? What are my connection tasks today? And if they didn't fit, that's okay. Because what themes are they're more of a gravitational pull. Maybe that's why those days worked out the way they did, not even intentionally in a lot of ways. They just kind of fell into place. Been doing this for so long, maybe that's what happened. But they're a lens, right? They are a question that you ask at the start of the day. So the underpinning is, what kind of day is this meant to be? But if you want to get logical about it, right? If you want to go towards the logic side of things, it's you wake up in the morning. Instead of asking, what am I going to do today? You say, well, what day is it? There's no ambiguity or uncertainty around that question. There is around the other one. What am I going to do today? Well, I could do anything. But what day is it today? Well, we're recording this on a Saturday. Okay, it's Saturday. Does Saturday have a daily theme? Actually, mine does. It's stewardship. So where I'm taking care of relationships with family, friends, community. Oh, well, Saturday seems like a perfect day to do a live stream then. You know, I have nothing going on today this early in the day here on the West Coast. Let's connect with community. This is a perfect day to do it. YouTube audiences are normally higher on a Saturday. The weekends tend to be a bit busier. So as I do this more and more, and my plan is to keep doing this more and more regularly, then this makes perfect sense, right? But what else am I doing today? Well, I'm going to do household stuff. Why? Because that takes care of the land that I live on, right? Going to see if anyone wants to do any kind of social time. So that way, so I look at my list, and that's where all of those things are geared towards. It's the lens. It's that gravitational pull. I don't mow the lawn on a Tuesday. You probably don't either if you have a lawn to mow. I'm not going to do any necessarily weeding or gardening on a Tuesday either, or a Wednesday, or, a Monday. Saturday makes sense, right? You're probably already theming your days, or theming elements of your time anyway, specifically your days, right? I often use this analogy of football season. American football season. So specifically the NFL, as we're doing this, it's the third day of the NFL draft. My Cincinnati Bengals did not draft in the first round. Thankfully, they made a trade. They're much better at trading assets than acquiring them through the draft. In most cases, they've got a few players through the draft, and the consensus is that the trade was a good one. But during the regular NFL season, when are most football games? They're on Sunday. So most people will dedicate Sunday to football. It's football day. In fact, the schedule knows this. The NFL says, okay, well, Sunday's when all our games are. So it gears the audience towards watching football. And now that they've diversified where you can watch it, all they're doing is spreading those numbers across multiple streaming platforms or platforms in general. It still has a concentrated focus, an overarching focus on Sunday. Yes, they have games on Thursdays. Yes, they have a game on Monday. And it's only one game on Monday, sometimes two, I guess. And Thursdays. College football, typically Saturdays, right? So you get a sense of, like, this is already happening. You're just owning it, right? So this is where, now, again, we're not talking about rigidity here. We're talking about this idea of, well, what fits into this themed word that I've created. So stewardship. Well, this is where tolerance comes in. And this is one of the things I talk about in my upcoming book. So your theme day, it doesn't need to be executed perfectly to count. It doesn't. In fact, when I do my journaling at the end of the day, and one of the questions I ask myself is, did I live up to my theme day today? If I did most of my tasks associated with it, then yes, I did. And for the record, most is over 50%. At least quantitatively. Qualitatively, it might feel like it should be more like 65 or 70%. But if I'm going purely logic, oh yeah, it's 50.1%. Yes, I did. If I look at my to-do list and go, oh, look, there were 10 things on my list and I did 6 of them. Congratulations, Mike. You lived up to your daily theme. But qualitatively, it might feel differently, right? I look at my list and I did 10 tasks, but only 5 of them were associated with my daily theme. I might question it. So think about it like a shower dial, actually. So if you're looking at a shower dial, especially the ones that are, like we have one where it's got the little temperature dial, right? And if you move towards the right temperature, like you're fine tuning it, right? That's really what we're doing here. So a theme day that honors 70% still builds that cadence. It still creates momentum. So the themes, what they do is they give you structure without rigidity because they're directional and not dictatorial. And again, when I get into the book, The Productivity Diet, and in the TimeCrafting Starter Kit more specifically, which is a 30-page PDF that kind of dives into this, you don't need to just do this for daily days. Daily themes aren't the only ones. There's horizontal, which means like hours of the day. There's monthly themes. There's weekly themes. There's a whole variety of them. In the Productivity Diet, I introduced a couple more. So what I'd like you to do sometime this week is just walk through walk through your certainties. So that's how you start to assign themes. So look at the categories of your work and life and try to group them. So connection, administrative, self-care, studying. Verbs are great to help with this because you'll find commonalities between them. A great one would be, so I've had people look at administrative and financial, right, as 2 potential, like, oh, I need a finance day. I'm like, do you have enough tasks that you can give an overarching focus to on a day of the week that finance would fall into? And some people's roles it would, but for others it wouldn't. So then I would say, well, I would argue then that maybe anything financial should fall into administrative, right? Exploration for me, I've already explained the idea of research falls into that. I don't have a researching day. I have an exploration day because I'm also doing practical application, testing apps and doing those things, right? So your themes are going to be different than someone else's. And it's really funny because if someone was to say to me, hey, Mike, do you want to go hang out on Wednesday, let's say? I'm like, well, it is my exploration day. They're like, what's that? Or can we meet on my next exploration day? They're going to say, well, is that a holiday that you have in your province? Like, what's the deal? So they're yours, right? And you just need to, it's more for you than for them. You can share this. If you're working in an organization where other people are doing this, and this has happened, where it's like, okay, so this is the day you focus on administrative stuff. No meeting days are a good example of that. Well, we know we don't have meetings on these days. Not a fan of no meeting days, but that's not what this conversation's about. If you want to find out what I think about no meeting days and what I think is a better alternative, you can let me know, and I will happily share that with you because I could dedicate an entire episode to that. So the whole point is that your themes will be different because time crafting is personal because productiveness is personal. So let's think about a big question that you can ask. Sure. I mean, when we talk about theming, there's the one question. What day is it? What time is it? What month is it? Like those lead towards that, reason because you're asking questions that have a definitive answer, right? And then you start giving your overarching focus. You concentrate on those tasks that fit into whatever that daily theme, that horizontal theme, whatever is. But this is a different question. And this question, I think, is an important one to ask because it gives you that momentum, that motivation, as Brad pointed out, that momentum, that push. And it's, am I acting from intention or inertia? Now, right out of the gate, you might think, well, I never act out of inertia. But if you are going to your email inbox first thing in the morning, because that's just the pull, is that your intent? if you go to your inbox as a default when you come back from a break, is that intention or is it inertia? So in my upcoming book, I talk about this idea of humanness, right? And this is a check-in cue from the humanness perspective. It's just really dressed up as a principle in a framework or an approach or a system. So every decision point in your day can be filtered through it. Am I acting from intention or inertia? And by the way, if you answer inertia, it could be that you're burnt out. It could be that you're tired. It could be that you're exhausted. But just asking that question can create a pivot point where you can say, oh, I'm acting from intention, or I'd like to act from intention. How can I do that? I'd like to avoid acting from inertia. How do I do that? So you can make a habit with something simple, like a Post-it note. Put that up on a Post-it note, a calendar alert, a line in, if you're using like a bullet journal or something like that. The tool doesn't matter, but the pause absolutely does. And I did a video about the pause, a little short that you can watch, and why the pause matters. Because the pause is productive. When you ask this question consistently, you kind of start to notice patterns. Where you default to urgency, your email inbox. Where you give away your best hours to other people's priorities. So if you're a night owl like me, I would say that it's harder to work from intention in those early hours of the day than in the later ones, because I'm not quite awake yet. And it's easier to do and take care of other people's priorities when they have them in mind for me than when I do that early in the day, which means as a night owl, you may take forever to get to a point where you're actually doing the things that you set out to do. Unless you do kind of what I was talking about. Hey, what's today? Today is Saturday. Saturday is stewardship day. Okay, what stewardship tasks do I have? Oh, my list lists 5 of them. Okay, but I'm tired. Oh, well, this one, and this is where we get into attention paths. We're not going to talk about them too much today, but they're in the starter kit. They're in the productivity diet. Oh, well, here are 2 of them that are low intensity. Either they don't take a lot of energy, or, hey, these will take 5 minutes or less. Okay, I can do those. And all of a sudden, I've directed my attention. And that's what productivity is. That's what being productive is. It's the active link between your intention and your attention. I just did it. And TimeCrafting promotes that. And Don's got a great point. He works across time zones, which complicates things. It does, no question. But if you start from a place of, and this is where data can help, right? This is where you should tap into logic. Okay, well, who am I working with across multiple time zones, and where do they take my attention from me? How often, when, around what? I mean, I go over this a lot with people in their email inboxes. I have a workflow called 3Mail that I use. And it basically, as emails come in, I look at them and I say, again, the same question, is this for today or is this for another day? And if it's for today, it goes in the today folder. If it's for another day, I go, well, what theme does this fall under? Podcast interviews would be a great example. So podcast interviews typically fall under now Tuesdays, because that's connection day. So I will automatically snooze them or put them, if snoozing can work if you're using a tool like SaneBox, for example, or any email tool that does this. It's just, and then if not, a more manual way, which I prefer actually, is I just drag them into the Tuesday folder. And because there's dates associated with them, like I will see which ones are newer and which ones are older, and I always work from the oldest, right? And so when Tuesday rolls around, I'll do the same thing. So okay, my email inbox, I've filtered through what these are today. These are other days. Well, where do I go now? Well, it's Tuesday. Let me look at the Tuesday folder. Oh, okay. So these are the emails that are oldest. I need to take care of them. And then I'll go back to the today folder. But I have choices there. I could either just work from today first and then go to the Tuesday folder, or do the Tuesday folder, then go back to today. But this is where, Don, or anyone that really is running into this issue. So this is where you could say, I need another folder. I need another folder for Jerry because Jerry's my boss and Jerry only uses email to assign tasks and doesn't have a task management system. And so I need a folder for them. So when an email comes in from Jerry, I need to move it to the Jerry folder before I respond to it because I want to be thoughtful with my responses. I'll go through the rest of my emails and scan them and get them to the proper folders. And then I'll go to Jerry next, no matter what day it is, because Jerry needs to be taken care of. By the way, Jerry could be a client, Jerry could be a colleague, Jerry could be a boss. You could also do a folder for somebody who you're like, you know what, I only need to touch base with them one day a week, or I need to deal with them later in the day when I have all my thoughts together. So you can orchestrate this. Now, again, most people build email folders like, oh, this is related to this project and this. The problem is projects end, right? I'm not saying you don't necessarily need to do this if it's a filtration structure that works for you, but it shouldn't be the top level one. I would create a folder system called projects, and you can see them inside of it because you create subfolders. Because a lot of people still use email to manage tasks, right? Even though there are other implementations out there, there's still that. And increasingly with AI, email can actually be used in this manner a bit more effectively because as corporations start allowing for this to happen, I'm not necessarily advocating for this either, I'm just explaining it, is you can actually ask your email tool, hey, well, what emails do I need to take care of today? Which emails are over 2 weeks old and I need to look at? Like, that is starting to happen. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Gone unchecked is a bad thing, but there are elements there. So if you're working across multiple time zones, I work across multiple time zones, right? In fact, most of the time, I'm dealing with people in the Eastern time zone. So as we're going through this right now, it's 12:30 Eastern. It's 9:30 for me. So if I actually had my druthers, I would be up and not working till 10 a.m. my time. But that's 1 p.m. Eastern time. So if I can arrange to look at my emails and go, okay, these came in before X time, these are ones I need to deal with, right? If I am working with an individual who I know, and coaching is a good example. I do one-on-one coaching. I also do group coaching. I have to schedule those earlier in the day because those are they're more ideal for clients and people that live in other parts of the world that are Eastern, right? If you're in the Pacific time zone, you're kind of always working from a place of, quote, being behind. So you're a night owl then. Even if you might not be, to somebody in the Eastern time zone, you are. So that's all important data that you can use to then craft your time in a way that works for them and you. So these are all things to consider. So if you're, interestingly, if the question is, well, I work from different time zones and I'm on the West Coast of North America, you may be acting, the inertia could be, well, I work across multiple time zones and they know that, so tough. Or they know, I know that, so I guess I'm just going to have to deal with it. That's still a form of inertia. Well, it's just the way it is. Right? Whereas if you're saying, okay, I work across multiple time zones and most of the people I work with, or a lot of them, I know they're in the Eastern time zone. So how do I reorchestrate or craft my time in a way that doesn't take me out of the picture completely? It still honors me, but also keeps them in mind. So when you ask this question consistently, you're going to start to notice patterns. Like, again, when you default to urgency, like I said, where you confuse motion with meaning too. Look at how many things I got done. Yeah, but were they meaningful? Well, yeah, but I did things, right? Yeah, I did things. Okay. But were they meaningful? So asking that question, am I acting from intention or inertia, is a really powerful one to ask. And again, put it on a Post-it note. Put it on your iPhone or Android wallpaper or your desktop screensaver. Feel free to put my name underneath it if you want. So if you're watching this after the fact and thanks to those that have chimed in already, bring your real scheduling problems, put them in the comments, put them there. Not hypotheticals, but actual things you're stuck on this week. Like, what's the hardest part of your week to protect time in? Let me know in the comments. If you're here right now, let me know. Do you have any theme days? Are they working? Have you assessed them? I don't keep the same theme days year over year over year. I only keep the ones that work. And sometimes they don't change the day. I just change the wording. Right? So, like, for example, we have the urgent important matrix that you've probably heard of, the Eisenhower matrix, the Covey matrix. I added another element to it called crucial, because like urgency, like importance, like intentional, words can kind of lose their power over time. And I think importance has, but crucial, I don't use that often. So when I say something is crucial, I'm like, oof, that needs to get taken care of. The proofreading of my book, I had to make a couple changes to it because we're in that proofreading phase now. That's crucial because the longer it stays with me, the longer it takes to get out. And incidentally, with theming, you can find ways to fit things into there that are intentional. Stewardship, that means to care for, right? I am going to, at a certain point during the day, probably after this live stream actually, going to review and do some of the proofreading because I'm taking care of my book. Now, you could say, Mike, that's a bit of crap rationalization. Sure, maybe, but it's getting the work done. It's making progress. I'm working from intention and not inertia, because inertia would love for me to go for a walk right now. It's beautiful and sunny out here in Victoria, BC. And incidentally, that proofreading is supposed to happen day over day anyway. But now all I've done is given myself permission, the direction, where to devote my attention to, and those spheres of attention that I've talked about in the productivity diet. I can go from noticing to awareness to focus to concentration. I can concentrate on that. And the daily theme is supplying that for me to a degree. What do your mornings look like right now? Or your evenings for that matter? Because theming doesn't just take place during the day, it takes place during the evenings. It also, when you're building daily themes, and you'll notice the ones I've talked about, connection, attunement, exploration, stewardship, those apply not just to work, but to life. I don't want to change the way my mind works when I leave the study here. First off, I work from home. I don't use home in a contextual way. But if I'm working on attunement, I'm going to be looking at that through the lens of, oh, okay, well, what else personally? What personal attunement tasks do I have? What personal exploration tasks do I have? Those things matter, right? So when you're building your themes, make them universal. Actually, great example. Starting next Saturday, these live streams will be at a different time. And there's one reason for it, and it's because I've signed up for Tai Chi classes in the park, not too far from my home. I don't know when I'm going to change the live streams to, but why did I sign up for those Tai Chi classes? Well, number one, Saturday is a day that I have a lot more opportunity for openness in my schedule. But number two, I want to take care of myself. I want to care for my body. I want to make sure that if I'm going to fly from Victoria on a red eye to Toronto, then Toronto to Montreal, and then, I want to be able to do that past the age of 51. So I need to take care of myself. And Tai Chi I've been curious about it. I think that when I discovered the class, it was on a Wednesday of all things. Again, not purposeful, not looking. Either that or I found it and then I assigned it. And this is probably more likely. I assigned it to review on a Wednesday. So I found it and said, nope, you know what? It's not exploration day. let me put a pin in it until Wednesday. And then I signed up for it. And yes, the opportunity cost could have been that the class wasn't available. I was willing to take that chance because it wasn't something I was prioritizing on that day. But now on the next, I think it's the next 5 Saturdays, maybe 4, I'm going to be doing Tai Chi. I've never done it before. So that would be an example of stewardship. That would be, this is where this fits. If it was trying to take place on a Monday, I might consider it because attunement fits. If it was on a Tuesday, maybe connection with my body. Wednesday, exploration, maybe. See, and that's the other thing, is you can make your themes malleable enough that there is room to put things in it that might not otherwise fit. But I've not always had exploration or stewardship or attunement. I've had an administrative day. I've had an audio video day. As a matter of fact, I used to have a deep work day, and it was on a Friday when my kids were really young. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to be home. I have Wednesday off. Friday actually worked until my kids went to school. And then by Friday, I'm like, why am I not able to get a lot of deep work done on Fridays? Oh, that's right. It's because I'm tired after working the other 4 days of the week. Okay, I need to change that. And by the way, reflective practice is the way you recognize. So if you're somebody that does like the Getting Things Done weekly review, courtesy of David Allen, that would be a time to look at your daily themes. Or for me, tomorrow is my positioning day. Planning falls into positioning. So that's when I do my planning. So if I was looking at it, I'd be like, okay, do these themes still work? If I look at my wall calendar here, my Now Year wall calendar, I did change. Actually, no, I have not changed my daily themes this year yet. So they've stayed the way they are. Now that may happen. I do think you need to give daily themes a good season, whether it's 3 or 4 months to take hold. I also think that when you're working on them, and I talk about this when I do coaching, is that you need to look 3, maybe 4 weeks in advance to really get a clear picture of what your calendar, which you can manage, looks like that far down the road. Because a calendar next week is not going to give you the information you need as to when you should be theming days for. But 4 weeks down the road, you're like, oh, this is a standing appointment. Oh, right, this happens every Thursday. But if you look at next week, it's probably already full. So your brain will say, well, I can't theme this day. I can't theme. No, nothing fits. But you get to those patterns show up later. So those are some things to keep in mind when you're thinking about theming days, weeks, months. Months are great. Taxes are due. I think in the United States they're already due, but in Canada they're due in a few days. So what if you made not April your financial month, but March? Why? Well, here in Canada, you get your slips at the end of February, or you should. If you don't, then March, you can dedicate time to getting them so that you can start to get them off to your accountant, or you could start working on the taxes yourself, so that by the time April 30th rolls around, guess what? Your taxes are done. You spent a little bit of time, and you've dedicated that March as your overarching focus, not to taxes, but to finances, right? So that could be, okay, taxes are part of that, but we want to save money up for home improvement. We want to go on a trip. We want to pay off some debt, right? That's where that fits in. So intentional living, as we get ready to close out here, isn't something you install and forget. It's something that you return to, like cadence, like rhythm. And that's what TimeCrafting is built on. So next week when we do this, and again, it will be at a different time. Next week, next time, I guess, would be a better way to say it. So next time that I'm here with you in a solo way, we're going to get into what to do when your system stops working. So if busyness is the trap, or the idea of being busy is a trap, and you want to apply more intention so that your attention doesn't get diverted, disrupted, pulled in a bunch of different directions. And now that you've got this intentional living piece that we put in place, what happens when things go awry? What happens when the system breaks down? Now, if you want to go deeper with this, I'm going to give you 2 options. There's one that's in the description here that introduces you to the TimeCrafting starter kit. If you've never looked at TimeCrafting before, you can go there, you enter your email, you're going to get a starter kit. It's a PDF, it's rather lengthy, but it will give you everything you need to get started with TimeCrafting. It's actually an opt-in that we're kind of phasing out of my as a primary opt-in, but during this particular season, I think it's a good time for people to check it out. If you want to go even deeper with it, and you want to go mindset, method, mastery, then I encourage you to pick up the Productivity Diet, the book. And you can get that wherever you buy your books. It's available in ebook form, and it's available in paperback. All right. And I'd say the starter kit, if you want to save a few dollars and keep in touch with me, then that would be the place to go. If you want to watch the early in this series, you can do that up here. And that's about it. Thanks to everybody for being here. If you watch live, thanks so much for contributing. If you're watching the replay, I'd love to hear your comments, answers to some of these questions. What's the hardest part of your week to protect time in? Do you already have daily themes? Are they working? Do you have other elements of theming? I have questions about theming, Mike. Can you answer them? Sure. We'll wrap things up here. Thanks again for being here. Until next time, stop doing productive and start being productive. See you later.